Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Church of Liberty. Um, it's been a little over a week since I've made any video. I missed the last Church of Liberty on Sunday, and some of you may know. The reason that happened was we finally had our little boy. Little baby Campbell Axon Knight has arrived here on the homestead. We're all doing as well as possible. I think may have picked up a little crud or something somewhere along the lines, but we're all doing good. He sleeps and eats. He's a beautiful baby. He's only cried maybe a dozen times, like legit cried, got upset, and that was because he was hungry or his tummy hurt because he ate too much, probably. So he's a beautiful baby. He rests good. He does allow us to rest, but even with him sleeping good, it's in 2 to 4 hour increments. So we are tired, and doctor's appointments and this and that. It's just been a crazy week. We're gonna get back on track, and hopefully, get back to consistency, doing our thing, talking about how we are nature, twisting the stories you've been told your whole life into a new light, from the Bible, talking about how you may just want to look at things a little bit differently. For me personally, I've been rereading some of my family's history, as some of you know, follow me. Fortunately, I have the good fortune to have books written on parts of my family. I'm not a direct descendant of Newt Knight. He would have been, I guess, coming out of his father and my great grandfather would have been brothers. So we didn't come out of the exact same man, but I think we still share a lot of the same values, and I like to read about that because not only do I get to read about Newt, but I do get to read about the broader sense of the land that I live on now and the community that was here and what those men were about. There was a few wealthy men in these parts in the early days, but mainly Jones County was a place of yeoman farmers that were just trying to make their way and raise their family. If they did own any slaves, it was more like living with them, being a part of the workforce with them on a daily basis, rather than sitting up on their antebellum porches, watching over hundreds of them, which was the case in some parts of Mississippi. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Mississippi was probably I think it was the richest state in the nation, and it may have been in the world at that time, just because of the cotton trade and the Mississippi River and the ports and whatnot. But reading up on Newt and the old Knight family, the Elseys and the Graves and the Collins, all those old families that still are around, that were back, some of the first ones to settle these lands back in those days. They just worked hard for what they had and wanted to keep it. And whenever the Civil War struck up, most of them in Jones County voted against secession. They didn't want to be a part of that. They just wanted to do their thing and be left alone. And so they were conscripted into the war, and ultimately that led to a lot of desertion. And as the war went on, it got more and more common, and they eventually formed their own little sacred, they call it the State of Jones, which I guess they did kind of support the Union, but for the most part, again, it was just these local people that had banded together and said, we don't really care if y'all want to continue going to fight for these principles that y'all think are the right principles to stand up and fight for. But we particularly don't agree with that. We see that, once again, money is controlling the situation, and there was laws like, I think if you owned 100 slaves or more, you didn't have to fight, or you didn't have to contribute to the war effort. And then you had these little poor yeoman farmers out here working the hills trying to make something for themselves. They would come out and take, not only were the men forced to were forced to go fight a war that they didn't particularly agree with, while they were gone, the army would come around and take from their families, their wives, and their children's mouths, and basically leave them with nothing. And eventually, that took a very heavy toll on them, and a lot of them deserted and started standing up for what they felt was right in their eyes. They saw this false flag, this false idol of a mission, and they realized that the main mission in life, once again, was to be a man, a family man, or to be a part of a family, to raise your kids, take care of yourself and your family, and then you can start doing all the other things and working with the land. These men, they were intimate with these woods around here, and they had that's why Newt escaped. He was never caught, and he died in his 90s right back here in these hills. And he did that because he was intimate with the land. He knew they used all sorts of herbal remedies that we don't think about anymore. Maybe some of you old timers that are listening know about these herbal remedies, but do you practice them? Do you teach them to your kids and your grandkids? Because I think we should start doing that. We might need some of these remedies in the near future. But that's a quick little lead up rant to what we're going to talk about this morning. May not be in the best of flow, but we're going to try to make it through this without getting wet. Looks like it might start raining on us. But we're in the book of Ezekiel this morning. And the book of Ezekiel is something that's always spoke to me. I remember one of the first times I argued with a preacher or with a religious leader in my life. I can't even remember who it was now. But basically my argument was, if there's such thing as a heaven and hell, and there's people that are born in part of the world that don't know anything about the Bible or the stories in the Bible, they're never even remotely taught what that meant. And I was taught that if you didn't read the Bible, go to church on Sunday, you was going to hell. That's just Southern Baptist ways. I think a lot of that's evolved over the years, but that's just kind of some of the messages I was taught. Them fire brimstone preachers, they're pretty vigilant in their teachings. But I remember asking if those people never knew the story, or never even given a chance to know, how can we say they're going to hell? And he explained it kind of along the same lines, but it still didn't click with me. I guess he did a decent explanation. He basically said that it was the Christians' responsibility to share the word with these people, and I was just like, well, we can't think that we're going to be able to talk to everybody in the world, saying there's thousands, if not, hundreds of thousands of people dying or born, in a month or so. I don't know, but that just don't seem like that's going to work out real well for a lot of folks. So I just, as I do, I'm very unorthodox in my studies, but I think I was turkey hunting that day. I can't remember, but I had my Bible with me. I took it out, and a lot of times before I read, I'll say a prayer or meditate, kind of along the same lines, and I'll kind of ask for some direction of what I need to study, and then I'll just open the Bible. And a lot of times it'll be weird, the words that'll be put in front of me whenever I do that. And then that day, and I don't even particularly remember exactly where it's at in Ezekiel, but I flipped to a page and it said that, all the, I should find it, I shouldn't bring this story up without being able to relate it to you, but basically along the lines of all children, all man, don't forget we are created in the image of God. We are God's children, and especially children, their innocence is preserved. They haven't lived long enough to start making those conscious decisions to lead them astray from the faith. But as adults who were never given the opportunity, they also will be graced with the ability to accept Christ in the end, at that final moment, and they will be accepted into the heavens. And that all pertains, even if you believe in heaven or hell. I don't particularly think there's a place called hell. I don't think that we go and sit in fire with this devil. I think man created that to scare people once again into believing what they wanted them to believe. But I do think that our souls continue to travel on somewhere. I should not say all. I don't like to deal in absolutes, but a lot of older cultures, religions, they still believe that the soul traveled to other places, whether it was reincarnated into another life on earth or what. But something about that consciousness, our perception of the world seems to exist after this vessel ceases to exist, if that makes any sense. But we're 12 minutes in, and I hadn't even got started on the verse that I want to talk about this morning. Anyways, the book of Ezekiel has always been a good one for me. And if you think about Ezekiel, where we're talking about the Assyria takeover by Babylon, roughly 600 years before the birth of Jesus. Think about how I talk about how we got this timeline messed up. I just reread some of the Eleusinian mysteries. This is right there on the doorstep of Greece and right in the height of the Eleusinian mysteries, where they supposedly drank some pretty potent things, and it allowed them to change their perception and see things a little differently. But this is right there, 600 years before the birth of Jesus. Judah's exile in Babylon. Ezekiel was a man who had multitude of visions. Some people claimed that there was no sense to any of them. And he may have been, consuming the kukion that allowed him to see things a little differently. But he was 30 years old, and I didn't know that until when I started studying for this video. And I guess it makes sense. A lot of your people nowadays think that in order to be a leader, in order to step up and to, have any sort of authority, you got to be an older person. Like, we elect these decrepit people into supposedly the most important offices for any of us, as far as president. And you got to be, 40, at least 40 years old, or is it 50 to be a president? I can't remember. But you got to be old. And here we have someone that's 30 that is prophesizing, and he's having connections with the Lord, and he's telling the people about him, whether they believe him or not. He's stepping up in that right. And you could say that he didn't have it all figured out, but I don't think any of us have it all figured out. But anyways, we're in the book of Ezekiel. We're in 33:10 where we're going to start this morning. And this is the watchman's message. This is in his Ezekiel's vision. He's basically considered the watchman for the people of Israel. And starts off, it says, "Son of man, give the people of Israel this message. You are saying, our sins are heavy upon us. We are wasting away. How can we survive? As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, I take no pleasure in death of wicked people. I only want them to turn from their wicked ways so they can live. Turn from your wickedness, O people of Israel. Why should you die?" You know, we talk about we are nature and taking care of the earth. We're cultivators of this earth and we destroy it on a daily basis. We talk about, or I talk a lot about love being the default setting of all humans. I think hate that's a choice, you know, and then murder, that's a choice. Stealing, that's a choice. But if we focus on what we are as a species and not who we are as a person in the eyes of other people on this planet, and chasing those worldly riches instead of just being a part of the system that was created for us. You know, we were put in a Garden of Eden, and in our whole existence we've tried to create something better than that. But it was the best already. It was given to us in the best shape. But we could improve upon that design. We can cultivate it and make it even more luxurious for our existence, yet we continue to destroy it and try to manipulate it in ways that have no good outcomes for us as a species as a whole. So the Lord takes no pleasure in the death of wicked people. He doesn't want any of us to do those things. And I think right there it's stating very plainly, if you just try to do better, if you just try to maybe see the world in a different light, and it's gonna be uncomfortable. People are gonna make fun of you, and it's gonna be tough, and it's gonna be one of those things that just it don't happen like that, like we're so used to in today's society. No, these are habits that you gotta form, and you know, rather than just go about your day just stuck in your phone. You know, you're in town, you're going in to pay for your gas, rather than just being zoned in on what you've got. How about you turn that opportunity into a time to smile at someone, to maybe show that love and make someone else's day even better. How about when you get home, you take your shoes off and you go walk around in the dirt and the grass for 30-45 minutes. Maybe, you know, close your eyes, take some deep breaths while you sit outside rather than stay inside all day long in front of a TV or a device. The message is clear over and over in this book that we're not doing things correctly in the eyes of God. We're trying to be fulfilled in life by things that we create rather than just enjoying the things that are around us. So I'm going to continue reading, and the thing that gets me, and I talk to people about this a lot, and people have told me the same things, and it's so true. You read about it, the stories are in the book. You know, they killed Jesus because he talked about things and performed miracles. People ridiculed Ezekiel because of his prophecies, his visions that he was given from the Lord. So it's something, there's certain thing in man that doesn't want to accept the fact that we are we are all connected, and just because somebody's saying things that might be a little bit scary to think about, but in the back of your mind, they're true and that you should work on said things. We gotta stop doing that. We gotta stop ridiculing people who just, for instance, myself, I'm just optimistic and I'm just trying to share my optimism about the world. I know we're in scary times, but if we focus on the right things and stop focusing on the division and the hate in the world, I think we can make progress, and I think we can do things that human species has never even been able to comprehend, the amount of wealth we could have in this world if we put our minds together and focused on the correct things rather than being led astray by all these little carrots, these little riches in your life. Um, those things don't bring happiness in the long run. Yes, it is nice to have nice things, but family, your time, your memories that you're making with the people around you, those are the things that you think about in the final minutes of your life. It just, we are a part of this earth, not a part of this world. So we're going to continue reading Ezekiel 30. Ezekiel 33:30 says, "Son of man, your people talk about you in their houses and whisper about you at the doors. They say to each other, 'Come on, let's go hear the prophet tell us what the Lord is saying.' So, my people, come pretending to be sincere and sit before you. They listen to your words, but they have no intention of doing what you say. Their mouths are full of lustful words, and their hearts seek only after money. You are very entertaining to them, like someone who sings a song with a beautiful voice or plays fine music on an instrument. They hear what you say, but they don't act on it. When all these terrible things happen to them, as they certainly will, then they will know a prophet has been among them." And that's where we'll stop this morning. But once again, the Lord speaking to Ezekiel and telling him that this message that you're speaking, the people act like they want to hear it. That people are excited, that are not excited. There's a buzz around town that there's this guy that's speaking these true words that kind of maybe everybody has these feelings that might be real, but somewhere in there, there's some deceit, and there's somebody who feels threatened by their way of life. Their way of life may be threatened. Their riches, their castle might crumble because people might figure out that they don't need said person no more. People might figure out that really, truly, to be happy in life, all they need is themselves and their family and a little bit of fresh air and fresh water, and then you can put a little bit of soul in your soul. You have a little bit of dirt to work, and life gets real easy. And I think we really have to start focusing on separating ourselves from those manly systems, those systems of control, if you ask me, in my opinion. And it's just one step at a time. You can't expect to wake up in the morning and be completely self-sufficient. I'm not anywhere close to that. But in my opinion, as a Christian, you should be prepared for hard times, and you shouldn't be reliant on another man to provide for you and your family. You should have all those locked down. So I think in the near future, in the years to come, it's going to be more and more obvious. I know some of you are talking about it right now, wanting to start getting more prepared and being more self-sufficient, but if it's only a buzz if it only lasts for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then you go back to doing the same old things, you're going to get bit again. Even if this whole COVID thing blows over and things go back to normal, which it's kind of hard to believe that's going to happen, but even if they did, something's going to happen to you in your life. And if you're thinking more along the lines of I can take care of myself and my family, you're going to be much better off than always having to run into town to get everything you need. So we start building these systems, start building these community networks, talking to one another, helping one another out again on that local level and in the virtual level. That's what's great about this time in history is we have the ability to communicate instantly with one another all over the world. With cryptocurrency, we had the ability to transact with one another all over the world without having to involve a third party. And these are all things that are threatening a certain couple of systems in the systems of control in the world, and I think you're starting to see them flex that. They're starting to get a little bit scared that somebody might be figuring out that they don't need them no more, and that if we all just start trying to take care of ourselves and one another, we truly don't need them with today's technology, and then we could start putting our heads towards things that really matter. We have true crisis on our hands with the world that we're living in. And I believe with today's technology and the amount of bright minds in this world, if we start working on the right things, there shouldn't be a hungry person in the world. There shouldn't be a surprise disaster that, desolate or destroys cultures for, months. People, I think in Haiti, they were still recovering from the earthquake, and then they got another one. They just had an earthquake 3 or 4 years ago, and then they had another one. And there's no excuse for that in today's society. I don't know if any of y'all keep up with NASA's news, but there's a comet that could come close to Earth, or an asteroid that could come close to Earth in the year 2140, I think. I won't be alive then, but my kids might be, my grandkids will be. If we start focusing on things like that right now, if it does come close enough, it could hit the Earth. We might have a plan to allow us to not be impacted or completely destroyed by that same. And I don't claim to know that we're going to get hit by an asteroid, but it's happened in the past, so therefore it can happen in the future. And these are just a couple things. We got I don't really particularly believe in global warming, but I definitely believe in climate change, and I definitely believe in man-made climate change and desertification, because you can look at satellite images over the past 20, 30 years, and you can literally watch us suck the water out of a piece of land. And but we have the ability to turn that around and to fix that. We have examples. If you want to see one, go watch Green in the Desert with Jeff Lawton. There's multiple examples. He's not the only one. There's lots of people doing these things. They're reclaiming the desert and turning it back. For instance, you can go look at the satellite images of the civilian corps after the Depression, where they built swells in the middle of I think it was Arizona or Nevada, out there in the Southwest somewhere. They built these swells back in the 30s. Pretty sure it's the 30s. And now they're some of the only places that have topsoil in the, for miles around. It's nothing but sand and shrub, and then you have these few little areas where they built these swells, and you have trees growing there, green grasses, and a couple inches of topsoil after 60, 70 years. So these things aren't that difficult to do. We just got to start talking about them and start doing more of them and working together. But that's all I got for y'all this morning. I hope y'all enjoyed it. We love y'all. Please remember to like, share these videos of anybody you think might enjoy them. We'll be coming back to y'all on Tuesday with another episode of the All Night Show, where we get down into the nitty gritty of this itty bitty thing we call life. So y'all find us on Facebook. We're on Facebook. I'm Kyle Knight on Facebook. We got Kyle Knight on MeWe, and then All Night Homestead on Odyssey, All Night Homestead on YouTube, and then we are All Night Homestead on Float. So y'all get out there, y'all share this, like it with some, hit the little flame button on Odyssey if you're on there. Hit a subscribe button. All those things help. Anyways, we love y'all guys. Y'all take care.